Hey there, it's Sindy Thomas, your career coach and strategist. The Insiders Career Club was recently rated in the top 20 job search podcasts by FeedSpot. Check out their website link. It'll be in the podcast notes. Now, let's meet our special guest. Okay, so are you ready for this week's guest? It's Oscar Vasquez. He's the founder of estate.prep.com, and his mission is to educate homeowners by creating living trusts and other essential legal documents. Now, estate planning isn't just for the wealthy. It's for anyone who wants to protect their homes, their assets, and their family. So he's here to educate and empower homeowners. This is an episode you can't afford to miss. Let's welcome him into the show. Oscar, welcome into the Insiders Career Club podcast. How are you today?
Great. Fantastic. Thank you for allowing me to be on your platform and bring awareness to all the homeowners and business owners out there about estate.prep.
All right. Wonderful. Well, let's start off by you telling us a little bit about your real estate career.
Yeah, I've been in the real estate industry for about 28 years. And about 15 years in, I started helping homeowners by recommending them to attorneys. And then all of a sudden, attorney fees went from $600 to like $6,000 to create an estate plan. And at that point, I just started to put in resources into creating a software that helps homeowners create living trust at a fraction of a cost. Well, to create a comprehensive living trust at a fraction of the cost.
Okay. So what do you mean by comprehensive living trust?
What I mean by that is that it's a complete living trust. There's a lot of living trust out there on the internet and people that are doing them, but they don't have all the legal provisions needed to be able to prevent you from going to court when in probate. And two, there could be some tax consequences if they're not written up correctly. Mm-hmm. And also, more importantly, it could be challenged if it's not written up correctly. And so, in other words, now you have I think the lowest I've seen out there for internet software, they claim it, but we've looked at them and they're like $800, but they're not. It's a heavy paperweight.
Okay. So what prompted you to expand your real estate into doing the living trust for clients?
Well, what happens is that most people, and that's one of the reasons I started this crusade as well, because I started to just work out locally, and I've been helping hundreds and hundreds of people locally create an estate plan because it's the only document in the land that prevents you from going to probate. And when you don't know what happens in probate, then you don't know. It's like you don't know what you don't know, right? And that's like when you first started a career, you don't know what it's like at the top. And then when you get there, you go like, oh my God, is this what I really wanted? I didn't want to work the long hours. I just wanted the salary.
Exactly why we do these podcasts, Oscar, to help people know what these careers do. Yeah, go on, please.
Yeah. So one of the things as estate planning or probate is one of those things that I think that we're on here to tell or want to spread the word about what happens to your things when you die. And I always say, look, there's two things that are guaranteed in your life. One is going to be taxes. You're going to pay taxes. Two, the second thing that is going to happen in your lifetime is that we're all going to die. Right. And that's definitely something that happens. So we all have an estate. So before I get into probate, I want to cover some myths of the most misconceptions of estate planning. Well, the number one myth that I see or come across is that you have to be wealthy to be able to, or rich, to be able to have an estate plan. And I'm here to tell you this, that in any state that you're in, if there is a threshold that you have to meet in order to go to probate, and that threshold, and you can Google it in your state, you can say, what's the threshold in X state or like, for example, if you Google what's the threshold in California to go to probate, it's going to come up with 184.5. And Colorado, it's going to be 60,000. Indiana, 60 or 50,000. And in Utah, it's $100,000. That means if you are a homeowner or your total net worth, that means your retirement accounts, savings accounts, cars, bonds, stocks, everything included exceeds that, you're going to have to go to probate. That's just what happens. Now, that's what it takes to qualify. So the second misconception in the estate planning is that a will is enough. Well, I'm here to tell you the difference between a will and a living trust. The first thing that you need to understand, a will is 2 pages long if you get it down from the internet. And if you pay an attorney $500-$600, it'll be 5 pages long. But it basically says the same thing. I love you and I leave you everything. And that's basically instructions for the court to be able to make the final decision on what happens to your assets. In other words, your things. That means your digital products, your anything of value that you feel that you have.
Okay.
And a living trust avoids all of those things, and it's a detailed document that explains exactly what happens to your things when you pass. So a living trust is a agreement between the grantor, which is usually the parents, and the kids, which are the beneficiaries. And it's the agreement between you two that is enforced by the court if your kids don't pay attention or listen to what mom and dad said in their trust. And so what that said, that's now that you know, so that's why a living trust does not need to be written by an attorney. It needs to have everybody's living trust when it comes to legal provisions, right? The law are all the same. The only difference between my trust, your trust, and the neighbor's trust is the names that are in the trust, the things that are in there, and the instructions. The legal provisions, if it's a comprehensive living trust, if it has all the legal provisions, they are all in there. So, which means that the only thing that gets changed in the living trust is my name, your name, or the grantors, the beneficiaries, the instructions, and the things we put into the trust. So what we did is we took the software that can merge all these things together, make it comprehensive. So then it can be written out how you want it to be written out, be able to have all the implications and benefits that a comprehensive living trust without the total expense of $6,000 to $10,000 with an attorney. And so back to probate, I want to give you that because I know we're short. We don't have a lot of time, but I want to give you at least the 5 out of the 100 things that happens to you. I only want to give you the top 5. And that means that the first thing that happens is an attorney. You have to hire an attorney, and attorney cost in California is 6 to 8%. That means that if your property, now almost everything in Southern California today is worth about $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So that means if your property is worth $1 million, you're going to pay about $60,000 to $80,000 in probate, attorney, legal fees, and court costs. That's the first thing that happens.
Okay.
So spend $2,500 today and avoid $80,000, or as an attorney would say, who wouldn't spend $10,000 today to save $80,000 tomorrow?
Mm-hmm. You have to look at it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and that when they put it that way, then okay, that makes sense. However, the second thing that happens is they publish your assets because it becomes public record.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically saying, if you think that Sindy owes you money or Oscar owes you money, he died, here's the equity and here's everything that he had. So if he owes you money, you better come forward, come to court. Or 2, it says if you feel that you're entitled to a portion of their inheritance, come forward and file a claim. Now, your kids can get shortchanged and many things could happen. Now, with that said, that's the second thing that happens. One, it becomes public record and everybody will know your business, and your kids are prone to scammers. Oh, I made an agreement with mom and she didn't pay me, and you don't know. Doesn't matter. They're scammers, I think. Then the third thing that happens is when you go to court, the judge makes the final decision on your assets. He makes the final decision, and they have a stack of papers, a stack of cases, and they're saying, "Are all the kids named here? Yeah. Is all their stuff? Yeah. Great. Separate it, divide it, give it to them, move on." That's basically what happens in the hearing's probably 5-10 minutes long, because they got tons and tons of cases of people that do not have any idea of what happens in probate. So then the judge decides. Then the fourth thing that happens is your kids have to wait 12 to 24 months to get their money. 12 to 24 months.
Absolutely. That is so true. My brother died unexpectedly, and he didn't have a will. And she didn't even think about having a will. And so after I spoke with her, she ended up, getting an attorney and doing all that. But it took years, absolute years. And probably even longer, because that was all during COVID. And the courts were shut down and all of that. Yeah. So it took her forever to get that done.
That's sad, because nobody wants their kids to go through that. Nobody. I mean, but what happens though is we always say, you know what? I know I got to get that done, but I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right?
Procrastination.
Kind of like the people that says, I need to update my resume. I'll do it tomorrow. Right?
Yeah.
And that just happened, and tomorrow never comes. And then the last thing that possibly can happen to your kids is they may have some tax implications that may incur because it wasn't handled correctly. That is probably one of the saddest things, when they get raked through the coals by the attorney. The judge makes decisions that they did not expect. They have to wait for the money, and then at the end of all that, they get a tax bill. And that is knowing what happens. That is what's going to happen to all of us that does not have a living trust. And a living trust is part of a comprehensive estate plan. That means it has to be sheltered and held, and it's the safest and only document that you can have in the land that prevents probate.
Yeah.
That is just a terrible thing. But that's what, now that you guys know, you know.
Yeah. So are there any other misconceptions that people have about estate planning?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that you have to be wealthy. But I think by knowing that you're wealthy, you should know this. If you live in a home and you live in the United States of America, you are wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Every homeowner in the land meets the threshold of probate, and they met that threshold to be the minimum standard. So that way, only the people that had the ability to pay can pay. Right? That is basically, and so, and that's the biggest misconception, that, I have nothing. Well, we talk to homeowners all the time about their abilities to, like we have a lady, she came doing estate planning. She's had her home toward $2.5 million in the Hollywood Hills, and she's living on $800 a month. And because we do financial planning, we said, listen, let's tap. She goes, well, what about my kids? I'm like, listen, your kids are the first thing they're going to do is sell the house, and they're going to 6 months you'll be gone, and they're going to say, Grandma, Mother left us this money. We're going to go enjoy it. So what I would recommend is you tap into that house and get what's called a mortgage that requires no mortgage payments. Get that in, And
Is
then
that a
be able,
reverse mortgage?
yes, that is correct. And that reverse mortgage, if done correctly, can be used as a lifeline for you. And she was like, really? And she goes, I haven't seen my kids. I got one in Australia. I got one. And I go, well, at 72, she's got a ton of energy. She's got she's got a garden that it looks like, it's so gorgeous. And I go, when I did the workshop and I went to her house, I was like, now I get it. Now this is why you don't go out, because you got all this work to do in the garden. But yeah, that's the things that we do to be able to help people. Because see, estate planning and real estate is one. The estate planning, the margins are very thin on the software. But what really helps is the additional services that we help provide people, like saving for retirement and stuff like that. But when it comes to estate planning, there's several documents. There's a total of 19 different documents that come with a comprehensive estate plan. And I tell people, that those are the documents that you really don't want to talk about, but you're so happy you have them when you need them. Kind of like insurance, right? You hate making that insurance payment, but man, when that house comes in, or the house gets on fire, or there's a claim, you sure are happy you got the insurance, But those are incapacitated. So when you become incapacitated, those are special documents that come with a comprehensive living trust.
Mm. So how long does it take for someone that wants to do this process with you?
Well, it's a great question. If you have all the answers, you can fill in all the answers and do all the questions. You can do it from start to finish in about 45 minutes. However, that doesn't include the human element of delay. And what that means is, if this happens, what do you want to have happen? Like, for example, you say, if your daughter surpasses you and leaves before you, or dies, passes away before you, do you want the money to go to your grandkids, your son-in-law, or do you want it to be split up among her siblings, right?
Mm.
And then
Mhm.
you go, that's people. Most people firsthand, they go, well, I think about that. Just take a few minutes. You could make that change, but just give it some thought. It's that important, right? That's the first thing. The second question that I see a very huge amount of human delay is husband and wife say, do you want to allow your spouse to make changes to the trust when you pass? And like, what does that mean? I said, that means that, and it's true, right? It's black and white, that your husband is allowed, if you pass before him, your husband is allowed to disinherit your kids. That's what that means. And you can make changes to your thing, because making changes means only to the inheritance. The assets he will always have access to because they're ours, right? Well, let me rephrase that. That's the first element, right? And then that one's, we're going to talk about that. Well, we'll get back with you. That's usually the first delay. The second delay is not only do they talk about that, and then the second delay is, do you want to make changes? That one, and then the grandkids. And then the second delay is, or the first delay, the question that comes up is, are these ours, his, or hers?
Mm.
And they're like, well, the house is ours. Okay. What about the savings account? Well, he's got his own, or she's got her own. Or, okay, so do you want to separate those, or when you give those gifts to your kids, are they done? And they're like, well, it's a good question. Let's talk about that, right? And that is what's called I call it, and I don't know if there's a legal name for that, but I call it the human element of delay, because those are questions that we never thought about. But, and that's, had people that went and got our comprehensive estate guide, filled it all in, And then when they filled it all in, they came back and did it in like 45 minutes, 30 minutes. If you can sit down and know all the answers, you could do it in 5 minutes.
Does
Go to the notary and get it done, because we don't prepare legal documents. They're already prepared. We just fill in the blanks, right?
print it out, and so the documents got to be done by a notary. Does it have to go to the court through the court system?
Yeah, no. What happens is an estate plan or a living trust is private. What goes and gets recorded is your deed on your house. And what goes and gets recorded is, for example, your retirement account, your pension account. That says the beneficiary is now the trust. The stock brokerage account now becomes the trust account for the trust of the family trust. It becomes, the accounts get renamed and retitled, so they get protected by the trust. So if you get, I've seen Wells Fargo send $80,000 of a joint tenancy account to probate, because it was a company policy that anything over 50,000 they requested. I'm like, well, she's like an owner of the account. Well, we don't know if it was her money or half of it was mom's or what it is. So what a freaking nightmare. And the thing that even got even more is that they had to spend like $5,000 to get their $60,000. That was even worse, right? And it was like being held hostage at that. So I always tell people, look, anything over 10 grand, put in the trust, just protect it. Who knows what the politics will be like the next day. And she was like, and it was the money for, she wanted to use that money for the burial. She couldn't even get access for the burial. So we had to get, I knew the guys at the mortuary. It's a good thing about knowing people, right? Told him the situation. He says, no problem. They signed a promissory note. They said when they got the money, they would pay it, and they were able to put their mom to rest. But the sad thing is that funds got frozen. They weren't able to bury it. And one thing that her mom like really embedded in her head, I'm leaving you money. Do not put me on Facebook and put me on GoFundMe. Don't go try to raise money from everybody, because I'm leaving you enough to bury me. Don't tell people. I'm like, did she really say that? She said, yeah, man, Oscar, I told her I wouldn't do it, And I was like, wow. I said, that's like committed to being responsible right there, right?
Oh, that's interesting. I'm surprised if she did all of that, she didn't do her burial planning and have that taken care of.
She didn't have a home. She only had $60,000. That doesn't meet the requirement, but it was a bank policy that they couldn't release it, which is even more terrible.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
I know, but talking about sadness and being in the wrong way. And here's I felt bad because I told her you shouldn't need it, because why would you buy something that you don't meet the threshold? Why would you go to probate? Right? But it was the bank policy. They needed a court order, which means probate.
There's all kinds of legalities. Yeah.
Yeah.
When we spoke before, I told you I was the executor of my parents, the second executor, because my sister was the first. And we got ready to try to sell their property, and we couldn't do it because actually we had an offer. We had a great offer on their house. And when they ran everything through, they found out that when the trust was set up, somebody at the city of Oakland, which is where my parents lived, they made a mistake because my parents had two properties, and they confused the property descriptions so it wouldn't clear. So we had to go, even though we had it, you have to make sure your documents are correct, because that also happened during COVID, and it took forever to get it through the court and get it approved. It was a simple thing, but it just took forever because, something in the document wasn't right. So you got to make sure all your documents are accurate, correct. Anyway, so you had a couple of gifts for listeners. who wants to find out more about trust planning. Oscar, you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, let's do that. So the first gift is I like to give you guys a free estate comprehensive estate guide. And that estate guide will help you eliminate the human element of delay in creating your estate plan. And that is estate.prep.com/guide. That's a free guide. You can download that at no charge. The second gift that I like to give you is the estate doc 800 it's not an 800 number. We have a new artificial intelligence where you can call and ask Lisa. The phone number is 805-909-4689, and that's a no pressure informational artificial intelligence hotline where you can call her 24/7 and ask her anything about estate planning, tell her what state you're in, and she'll be able to tell you how to handle that. And the last gift is if you go for the first 10 listeners, we want to give you a gift of a $1,000 discount for the first 10 listeners to be able to receive a full comprehensive estate plan for only $14.97 with $1,000 discount, and the discount code is Insider. Insider is the discount code, and that'll give you $1,000. Now, here's the difference between an attorney and us. Once you get the estate plan, you can make unlimited changes and unlimited updates to your beneficiaries and heirs and inheritors. You can make unlimited. There's no changes. If not, you can hire. What's that?
Did you mean no charges if you make changes?
No charges on any updates or changes. And you make changes when your daughter marries the pretty boy that doesn't want to go to work, or when your son orders a toxic, or the daughter-in-law that's toxic or whatever.
Well, okay.
But not the one, and then they just disinherit them into the trust. So if something happens to them, they could do that. And those are updates. And those updates from an attorney usually cost about $2,000. And with us, it's absolutely free. Well, there is $129 that is required the year that you update it, because that covers the cost to update all of the estate plans throughout the nation. Through every state has to have every legal provision in there.
Oh, okay.
That's where that goes.
All right. Well, Oscar, it's been my pleasure to share this time with you and have you talk about trust estate planning. Thank you so much.
Well, no, thank you so much. And thank you for having me. And once again, thank you for allowing me to help me in my crusade in bringing awareness to the 68% of homeowners that do not have an estate plan because they don't know what happens in probate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really disappointing. So thank you for calling out attention to that. And I just appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Did you enjoy the show? Well, keep listening. And don't forget to like us. If you've been laid off or downsized or need a career pivot, if you need resume help or to sharpen your interview skills, I can help you. Set up a complimentary 20-minute call with me on my website at www.insiderscareerclub.com. Until next time, may God bless you, keep you, and make his face to shine upon you. Take care.